And we brought you that Jojo Kobna's story on Rashida, and we know that Kai, like her, would need a lot of help because it is her desire to make sure that she undertakes the journey back to her community up north, but more so she will need a lot of help. We've had well, some benevolent gestures of some pledges, etc., coming forth. But since that interaction, Mamavi, with Solomon, Jojo Kobna, we've had some good news, but we need those actualized in many respects.
Because, you know, often when issues like that come up, when you see the story, and we've played to you the story, so if you feel touched and you want to do something, the window is still very much open. But we got a lot of pledges, a lot of promises yesterday. So how far have we actually made? How close are we to sending Rashida back with Jojo Kobna to Savulugu? Jojo Kobna is joining us via phone to give us the updates. We did promise you that. So Jojo, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mama V.
All right, so give us an account how much came through in terms of pledges and how much have we redeemed?
So I think it's now. Many people have called, and many people wanted to buy the sewing machine themselves. So they called and they wanted to inquire how much fund we needed, and I told them that they could get any of them single. They could just go to the market and get a very good one for her. And they said, oh, they would call me back. So many the calls are overwhelming. We keep calling, even hitting our social media pages and then inquiring how they could help. And I have given them numbers on how they could help. And so we are yet to receive something concrete, something in our hand. Many people too have also called to say that they want to train the girl in the north if she decides to make the journey, and they will do it for free. We had someone calling from Tamale saying that Savulugu and to Tamale is not too far, and so she has decided that she's going to take care of all her apprenticeship costs, and then make sure that the lady comes every day from Savulugu, her community, to Tamale every morning to learn how to sew. And so we have people who have made serious pledges, and I'm just hoping that very soon they will bring in they'll redeem themselves.
Are we giving ourselves any timelines, Jojo, because we can't wait for too long?
We're waiting till Friday. We're just giving people till Friday to quickly make the move and then redeem themselves. And then when we get it by Friday, then we start making arrangements up north. It's going to be as quick as that. Okay.
So if people are watching, can they still, do we still need the support?
Yes, we still need the support. The support needs to come, then we can say, so far all I can say is that people have pledged. We need the people to come and say that this is the money. And when we see the money, we get a lady. We're just going to render account to the public and then sit down with Rashida, and then we decide on when we're going. And so we still need the support. If you tell me that you want support and the money is not in my hand, then you have not supported. And so until we see the money in our hand, so far there is no support. But we have overwhelming pledges from people.
Okay, so tell us how. What's that mobile money account again if somebody wants to contribute to it?
050-7410-616 and then 020-269-2232. That is a Vodafone cash.
Both numbers?
Yeah, both numbers.
Okay.
Both numbers.
All right. Please run through the numbers again for us.
050-7410-616 and then 020-269-2232.
Okay. And we're saying any amount, right?
Any amount can come to us.
Okay.
And then if it spills over, we will find a way of trying somebody who shares the same passion and wants to go, and then it's going to be a great return then.
Okay. All right, Jojo, we will catch up with you again. Thank you so much for your time this morning. That's the piece that he brought to us, and it's not just any story. It's Let's Be Fair, and it's about a 17-year-old Rashida who's in Accra, came in as a Kayayo, but she wants to go back to Sablugu because obviously what she was expecting is not what she's actually living. So please help, let's contribute, let's get her that sewing machine, let's get her to learn how to sew, because she so badly wants to do that. That's one of our conversations this morning, but another is looking at Parliament's Appointments Committee, because per the schedule, the President's Special Prosecutor nominee, Martin Amidu, is set to appear before that committee for his vetting this morning. But the reason we're not so sure is because of that court case, that pending court case, because of his age. And so we want to touch base, Roland, and speak to a member of Parliament for Ododo Diodio, Nilante Van der Poy, is a member of the Appointments Committee of Parliament, and he joins us via phone. Good morning to you, Mr. Van der Poy.
Good morning, Mama V. And good morning, Roland.
Good morning to you, to my boss. How are you?
Roland, I would say by the grace of God, I am fine. I'm blessed and highly favored. But let me say, I'm not happy at all this morning.
Why?
Roland, will you believe that I left the house around 5:45 and I'm still stuck in traffic?
Yeah, we do understand the problems of Accra.
Kaneshi Main Road is a total mess. Total mess. And I'm wondering why the police are still not here to try to see whether they can bring some sanity into the situation. Total mess. In fact, no car is able to move. Those coming from Accra towards Kaneshi cannot move, and those from Odoko, Dakuma area towards Kaneshi cannot move. The situation is worsened by the cars coming from uphill Mataeko area. Total chaos.
Anyway, Mama
the situation is similar on the main Achimota stretch as well. So we're not sure if it's just because of the rains, but of course we need the police MTBD.
No, with the connection area, I will say the rain, because the whole place is flooded.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole place is flooded.
So apart from the police, I mean, that also should tell our members of Parliament, but that there's still a lot of work. It just has to rain, and it exposes all the things that we haven't done.
Yes, of course. It will be a serious issue for both my committee, local government committee, through our assemblies, and also the Works and Housing Committee to look at what we will do. But definitely, it's the executive which must initiate for us to be able to drive the policy for them.
We hear you. Of course, you are scheduled to be in the studio, but obviously because of the traffic, that's why you're not here. But as a member of the Appointments Committee, we want to ask you, is Mr. Martin Amidu appearing before the committee this morning? Are you sitting?
Yes, Mama V, as far as we are concerned, we are ready to go. We've done whatever we have to do. We scrutinize CVs, and individually we are prepared, collectively we are prepared. As far as we are concerned, we've been given the mandate by the Speaker to vet him this morning. Until otherwise, we are ready to go. It lies within the bosom of the Speaker to say that don't do it or do it. But we are scheduled to start the vetting 10 o'clock this morning. And my intention was to come to your program, and after your program straight to Parliament House and get myself ready.
So, the last time that we checked, sometime yesterday, we were told that this suit that has been filed at the Supreme Court by former Deputy Attorney General Dominic Ayeni has not reached the committee. Do you know if you've been served as a committee?
I think the suit was filed on the Speaker, and so it will be the Speaker who will have to communicate with the clerk of the committee, and the clerk of the committee will inform the chairman of the committee, who is the first Deputy Speaker, and then also the leadership of the various the leadership of the committee, meaning the majority and the minority, and then we shall take a decision. But as far as I'm concerned, as a member, I'm not aware of any suit that has been filed or anything that injuncts us from going ahead with the vetting of Mr. Martin Amidu.
So just coming up to 8 a.m., you're scheduled to sit at 10, which means we've got 2 more hours to go. If a decision has been taken by the Speaker not to go ahead with this vetting, how would it be communicated to members?
Oh, then immediately we communicate to the clerk, and the clerk will go through that with us. We scheduled every day that we have vetting. We meet as a committee around 9:30 to go through the format and also discuss 1 or 2 issues pertaining to what the Speaker will want us to do and what the chairman of the committee will want to communicate to us. And then we shall discuss those things and agree before we go, because in all things we must be seen to be agreeing in, so that we don't go and sit there and then be arguing among ourselves. So we try as much as possible to build consensus before we start the proceedings. And so if there is anything like that and a Speaker intends to restrain us from going ahead with the vetting, he will communicate that to us, and that will communicate to members at the pre-sitting meeting that we'll be holding around 9:30.
Okay. Do you reach a consensus as minority and majority members of the committee, or as a committee?
We reach a consensus as a committee. Okay. We work as a committee, even though we are made up of members from both majority and minority. For example, when we're doing the vetting of the ministers, for example, there was a proposal that each person should be asking 3 questions and maybe a room for follow-up. That may not be the normal procedure, but once we agree that looking at the time and the number of people appearing, we agree on this. But with Martin Amidu being a single person, maybe we have to agree again on the number of questions each person will be open to, and what sort of follow-ups we can do, and what sort of areas that you need to look at, and what sort of areas you cannot go. Because the chairman also will have the right to waive certain questions if he thinks that question may be intruding on certain areas that have not been agreed upon by the committee.
So it is possible that when you meet later this morning before the sitting proper, you would agree, for instance, that the matters where this suit covers, you will not touch on?
It's possible that we may decide that, look, if what we are going to, the vetting we are going to do will not be sub judice, then we'll go ahead. If really a suit has been filed on the Speaker, and the Speaker has been notified of the suit, and the Speaker thinks that the suit is worth restraining us from going ahead with the vetting, that will be done. That will be discussed at the pre-sitting of the committee.
Okay. So when should we know something more concrete?
I think by 10 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, everybody will know whether the vetting will go ahead or not. That is, if there is a suit.
Okay. All right. We will leave it here and then follow up a bit later this morning. That's Neil Lante van der Poy. He's Member of Parliament for Dodo. But on this issue, he's speaking to us as a member of the Parliament's Appointments Committee. Remember that per the schedule, Mr. Martin Amidu is to appear before the committee for his vetting. He's been nominated as the special prosecutor. So conversations, of course, coming out of that because of that suit that's been filed by a former Attorney General, Dominic Ayene. Now let's get some education on what's been happening for the past few hours. We've got our friend and a lawyer, very prominent one, of course, Mr. Martin Amidu, joining us via Skype for that conversation, Roland.
And that conversation basically is just going to give us an insight into what the law says, Mama V, and many other things. And if you kickstart it for us, it will give us a lot of... I'll come in with some questions as well.
All right. So let's say, first of all, let's say good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Mama V.
I'm good. We hope that the rains have not disturbed you.
No, I was fortunate.
All right. Great. So, Mr. Dominic Ayeni, or Dr. Dominic Ayeni, appropriately, a former Deputy Attorney General and also Member of Parliament, claims that Mr. Martin Amidu's age of 66 is beyond the statutory age of employment into public service and is seeking an order for the court to have his nomination annulled. I wonder what you make of what's been happening, especially because this came few hours to Mr. Martin Amidu's appearance before the vetting committee.
Yes, really, I mean, we're all shocked that just a few hours to this exciting vetting, we're not with this rate. But well, since in the nature of a democracy, you have to take it that way. Yes.
All right. So really, did we all miss this in terms of the fact that Mr. Martin Amidu is 66 years? What does the law say?
In terms of missing it, no. Actually, Mama V, what happened is that after his nomination, this issue started, going around in the media circles, legal circles on WhatsApp. So it's been about, 3 weeks or so since I first saw this matter. Lawyers have raised it. But my sense of this matter is that the age 66 shouldn't come in. It doesn't arise because when the Special Prosecutor Act was passed, I didn't see Parliament as creating another public service. You see, the age 60 applies if you're creating a public service. So in Article 190, you have the various kinds of public services. You have the civil service, police service, national there's a fire service, you have the statistical service, and so on and so forth, Ghana Education Service and all those other ones. But in this Special Prosecutor Act, the word used is an agency. When you look at the long title, what I mean by the long title is that, there's a description of the scope of the act. In that scope, they made it clear that they are creating an agency. Parliament didn't say they're creating a public service. And there's this thing we call presumption of perfect knowledge. Parliament is deemed to know the law. So if Law A has already been passed and Parliament is passing Law B, there's a presumption that Parliament knows that there's Law A. So at the time they're passing Law B, they will take it into account. So for me, for Parliament to have used the word agency, they said they are creating an agency, then I see Parliament as steering clear of the matter of public service.
Okay.
So my understanding is that Parliament is creating an agency, not a public service. So I'm still trying to, we are all learning. In law, we always say that we are learning. So I'm trying to understand how an agency is being roped in as a different species of public service. You see, and let's not make them. The office is definitely a public office. But public office does not necessarily mean public service. So when you say public office, number one, let's take the president. You see, the president is occupying a public office, but it is not public service. So you see that the president is not caught by the age limitation. Look at the ministers of state, look at the ambassadors, and so on and so forth. You see that they are occupying public office, but it is not public service. So that's the first threshold we need to cross. If Parliament hasn't created a public service, then age doesn't arise. And that's why I said in the long title of the law, Mama, I don't know if you have a copy there. You may look, you see that it's an agency to deal with certain matters. They didn't say they are creating a public service. So that's my thinking of it. But, it's for the Supreme Court. We want to be careful not to go into the merits that might let the whole ask for contempt.
I appreciate that. How about the arguments that this office is almost or is just as a court of appeal, and so if you are enjoying terms and conditions of court of appeal, of a court of appeal judge, then if you like, this should definitely apply to you.
Exactly. So you are talking about Section 13, is it 5 of the Act? Yes. It says that the person has the same conditions of service as a justice of the Court of Appeal. Yes. So that is the another what do you call it? Another point, another strong indication that the Parliament wasn't creating a public service, but something else.
But which means that, I mean, the fact that we're not clear the interpretation of this means that there's an issue, correct?
Oh, definitely. That one there is.
Okay. And so this issue is going before the Supreme Court, but we're also not sure, can Parliament sit even if the Speaker has been served or has been notified?
Well, that particular matter, lawyers are not agreed on it. There are two schools of thought. Others would say that once there is a case in court, you have to stop, even without an express injunction from the Supreme Court. Some too would say, no, you would need an express order, an order of injunction from the Supreme Court before Parliament stops. But let's come to the practical situation. The best guide is the way Parliament itself has reacted to matters like this in the past. In the past, when Parliament is seized with a matter like this, vetting, and then Parliament discovers that there's a court case, usually Parliament has tended to stay its hands and wait for the court's decision. That's in the past. So you remember the issue of the 40s, when the 40s, the Smith matter went to Parliament. You remember the Ford saga. That one, when it went, Parliament said no, the matter is before Shrad, so Parliament didn't want to discuss it, wouldn't go into these matters. You see, so some practice in the past, there's some precedents to suggest that in matters like this, Parliament will hold its hands, but you know very well that no two cases are the same, especially considering that this particular vetting is a very sensitive matter. It's a matter that the public really wants to have it done quickly so that we can get on with the actual fight. And also yesterday, I think following the discussions and what's been in the media, it doesn't appear people are opposed to Parliament going on with the vetting. Rather, on the contrary, it looks like, I think I read in some of the newspapers, if we can believe it, I even heard the Triple M, Muntaka had said they would go on, you see. So for Parliament to decide, but it looks like the public opinion, we would all want to see a situation where the vetting should go on.
Indeed, we've just before speaking to you, we spoke to Neil Antevanderpoy, who is also a member of that committee. He's on his way to Parliament, and as a committee, they have not been communicated to. So per the earlier plans, this vetting is coming up until a decision is taken within the next maybe few hours. We'll see about that, but per the plans, they're on with the vetting. Just hang on for us a bit, because we'll come to matters that you would wish would come to the fore in terms of the questions that will be put to Mr. Amidu. But we've also got Dr. Evans Agri-Darko, who is a political science lecturer. He's with the Science Department, University of Ghana, and Roland is going to speak to him. So we'll join you. Just hold on for us. Don't hang up yet. Mr. Martin Amidu.
And it's where we mix the discussion and try to see on the side of the political scientists what they think based on their own interpretations and observations. And Dr. Agri-Darko is helping us, Political Science Department, University of Ghana. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Roland.
On that perspective and where you look at it from, it's been accepted that this position, the special prosecutor is expected to give a strong hand to government or the executive to clamp down on corruption. Well, this seems to be an impediment in a way, where we're supposed to have a vetting and then we have a writ filed by the Member of Parliament, Dr. Dominic Ayine, who perhaps wants that clear interpretation on whether the age or not is above or within the whole scheme of things. What do you think about it?
Thank you very much, Roland, and good morning to your cherished listeners. I don't think it's an impediment for. We have all been arguing that we know how to build democratic citizenship, democratic culture, participant political culture. So to the extent that people will resort to court to seek interpretation of some relevant portion of constitution relating to some specific issues, it's a healthy development. You would expect that people will activate the constitutional processes that all of us have, signed up to. Though for ours, it's also a procedural democracy. That's why I normally say that the procedures are as important as the conclusion. Well, one would want to find out whether indeed the timing was right or wrong. I mean, you could not, you can't really force somebody from going to court, except that if you look at it critically, Parliament has not been communicated. The Supreme Court has not started the case yet. I don't think that Parliament takes its instructions from media or from hearsay or from anywhere. The court of competent jurisdiction will have to decide, and then perhaps it will be then incumbent upon them to either continue or discontinue. But as we speak, nothing of that sort has happened, and I strongly believe that Parliament will go ahead. It's an independent organ, of state, a branch of government as that, and I believe that they will go ahead with the vetting processes today, pending perhaps the determination of the Supreme Court. But as I said, if people go to court, it's a commitment to the rule of law, and for me, as far as I'm concerned, when all of us are committed to the rule of law, it gives predictability to the actions of government. It ensures that there is some sanity within the state, and for me, that is an indication of democratic maturation, and it's good for institutional building. So that's what I can say for now. Yes, on this one. Yes.
From where you're coming from, the academia, are the views varied or the opinions varied on the state or the stage where we are as far as this is concerned, appointing and then also getting further interpretations, whether it's from the judiciary, etc., and whether Parliament also should go on with the process in itself?
Earlier last month, we presented some findings of a survey that we had done on assessing democratic governance in the country. And one of the areas that we looked at was this special prosecution processes bill, among others. The good news, as far as the defenders of this particular instrument is concerned, is that there's overwhelming support for the creation of the special prosecution. You see, Ghanaians have really not been happy with the fact that we've not been able to have a good handle on the public purse, to the extent that people have used their positions, other discretionary powers among others, and the fact that we have not been able to enforce the laws that we ought to enforce to milk the society dry. So a good number of our citizens will wish that individuals who through the act of commission or omission, the nation has lost several millions of cedis to really be brought to account. For them, they think that is an indication of a commitment of a government towards preservation of the what we call the resources of the state. So that understanding exists, and that support is there, and it gives the government enormous goodwill and enormous political capital in the political system to be able to go ahead. But at the time that survey was conducted, even the individual's name had not been mentioned, had not been nominated yet. And I think that if we had gone to the field after the nomination, I believe the approval rating would have been a bit higher. But you see, the opposition gave indication that the opposition NDC gave indication that some of them indicated that they were not happy with the individual concerned. Others even gave a twist that is an indication that the MPP, contrary to what they have been touting, they do not have the men and women to really prosecute. And the fact that they had to go to NDC to poach somebody is an indication that they have the men or the people with the capacity to do the job. But I think the bottom line really was that the government was looking for, or the president was looking for, somebody of a certain stature, of a certain standing within the body politic, demonstrable resilience, and perhaps right attitude to be able to prosecute the things that we need to prosecute. First of all, to deal with those who have undermined the public purse and perhaps put the fear of the Lord, if you like. Potential people who are also dreaming bad dreams follow suit. So that understanding exists. Now, if you look at discussions within the university system, the opinion is also sharply divided, as you may know. That there are others who believe that, look, this is much ado about nothing, and it's too little, too late. It's a storm in a teacup. Some have argued that, look, this is just perhaps a desperate attempt on the part of the opposition to prevent a very important actor as Martin Amidu. Some of us have come to admire him for his resilience and the fact that he is prepared to defend the public good, what we normally refer to as a general welfare. And there are others who also think that yes, that's if they think that laws have been flouted, the only place to go instead of arguing in the streets and in the processes, producing more heat than light, you ought to go to court to seek proper interpretation on certain aspects of the Constitution that are in on this particular appointment. So that is how it is. So there isn't none of these groups, two contrasting groups, is holding sway for now. But we think that it's all good for democratic development. It's good for learning processes. It's good for us to know how the systems will go. So time will tell as to what really will happen. But what is the events unfolding also will give us indications as to what the countervailing forces that we have in the state, how they operate. For instance, if Parliament has not been communicated to properly, or if maybe the majority leader has been informed, minority leader has been informed or notified about the suit, and of course we are informed of snipers we're picking from Parliament indicates that the Speaker himself has not been notified with these particular suits. Political watchers and political scientists will be interested in knowing what role the majority leader, for instance, will play, or what role minority leader will play. Because when it comes to Parliament, one would expect that we'll respect the hierarchy of authority, and therefore the Speaker will be the right person to get this thing. But even that notwithstanding, even if the Speaker had been notified, the Speaker would have just still acknowledged it, but they would have had to do their business that they have to do, because they don't take instructions from individuals or from the media. They take instructions from fully constituted institutions, and if it has a bearing, if these decisions have a bearing on their performance, why not? In line with democratic, they will respect these injunctions or these positions, and Ghana will become better for it. Will benefit from such.
Okay, and we have to let you go though. But before we do that, if you take a cursory look at what the newspaper headlines have been, the publications, and what the summaries have been, it's as if more like the opposition is trying to impede or has something to hide as a result of perhaps the writ filed by Dr. Ayeni on this subject, the vetting. For public opinion, does it negate or take anything away from the role of the opposition, and perhaps also does it create the perception that that is the case? They have something to hide.
Roland, in view of the overwhelming support that this particular dispensation has, I'm talking based on the empirical research that we have done. In view of that, it is suicidal for anybody to want to stall the process. Then it gives an indication that of all the fact that we all would need to seek clarification if need be, and make sure that the right things are done. We can also dismiss out of hand that the majority is always right. No. What is important is that, yes, majority rule, right, plus minority. Yes, tyranny of the majority exists. Yes, but we must also ensure that we don't also go through what some people refer to as a quality of the minority. These, ingredients, what they do is that, as I said, if you have an overwhelming support for a particular system, a particular policy measure, or a particular decision of a government, swimming against the tide, if you try to even use legitimate means to want to stall the process, there's a lot more education that you have to do, or a lot more convincing that you have to do within the body politic, for people to appreciate, look, what you did was well intentioned, and that you are not prepared. It's not as if you want to undermine the process. Otherwise, then you feed into the perception that perhaps people think that there are skeletons in the cupboard, and perhaps the person is going to go as some people, and therefore you wouldn't want this individual to actually be.
And that would be bad for the opposition, will it be or not?
That will undermine their credibility in the political system. Already people have said that, as per the research that we conducted, people have argued that the opposition has done past credit within the 1 year that they have been in there, and so we want the opposition to be much more virile. They want the opposition to be much more. They would expect that they will be loyal opposition. There are areas that they have as unnecessary and perhaps tension within the opposition elements. They have asked ought to do the right work. I mean, the work that they have to do. But
okay.
If they give an indication right from the word go that some of them may go to court on this particular issue, and that is where some people may be thinking that what are these people up to? But as I said, yes, anybody can go to court. Any citizen, any person who lives within a particular geographical area can go to court and perhaps seek redress where necessary. But we need to look at within the context of the propriety, otherwise, of these conventions. But
all right.
That notwithstanding, whatever decisions that the court will come out with will be good for democratic development, because we will all learn and help us even teach better and communicate better. It deepens our democratic system, and it sets precedents within the system for all of us. So for me, I don't see the episode as a detracting at all or taking anything at all from our democratic journey. I don't think so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Evans Agredako is with the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. And as we prepare Mr. Martin Pebu for Mamavi to continue the discussion, I bring you a quote from Dr. Abu Sakara Foster, who is an agric economist, but also one-time presidential candidate for the CPP. And he's quoted as saying, "It will be a big mistake to antagonize Martin Amidu by partisan obstruction tactics. He is called to serve as a national duty."
All right, let's go back onto Skype with Mr. Martin Pebu, and we want to talk about what the questions should be from Parliament in terms of what we want to find out from this vetting process. What are your expectations?
In this particular case, because Mr. Amidu's competence is beyond question, I really haven't thought out any critical questions as such. But yes, because we all know he has a public track record, okay? Yes. But perhaps what we should be interested in as a lawyer is the number of staff so far since he's been nominated. I'm sure he's had some time to think about the position he's going to occupy, and looking at the problem we have, like the issue of corruption, how many lawyers he would need, lawyers and other experts. Yes, because the size of his staff would matter a lot. You know, when you look at the current Attorney General's office, they are grossly understaffed. They don't have enough lawyers. So the first question I want to find out is that how many lawyers does he think he needs? And then the other aspects, forensic aspects, those who have to do forensic checks and all those things. Yeah. What does he think he needs? So that it will be clear to the public that this is what the man says he needs for the office. So that with the massive public support, then government can duly cater for the human resources that he needs to be able to do the job. Because, Mamavi, let's not forget that it's common to find that in the public agencies and ministries, you know, often you would hear there are issues of delay of the release of funds and those matters. Yes. So because of that, he should make clear to us what the number of persons he needs, and then what the cost would be. Yes.
So you made reference to what Muntaka Mubarak did say on radio when the issue came up. What he also said was that if Mr. Martin Amidu decides to give long answers to the questions that they will pose to him, that they're going to spend perhaps the entire day at the committee, at the session. Do we expect, I mean, do you know him to be somebody who gives short answers to questions posed to him?
Wow, that's a tough one. Maybe if I had been asked this maybe yesterday, then I would have started trying to remember. No, I don't seem to remember him as a very long-winded person. No. If he was, by now, that would have played out in the public. Yes.
So you think that in terms of his work ethics and his record, that's already settled? So perhaps the question should move to other areas.
Exactly.
And you're looking at specific reference to the office that he's going to occupy in terms of the number of lawyers and what he would need
other logistics
to do the work. Okay.
Yes, proper trainings.
Okay. But yesterday there was also, we were also told that another lawyer, Chris Akome, also had petitioned the committee, and that they were looking into the things that he had brought to the committee's attention. Were you expecting that people would actually petition the committee, like we've seen at least in one case, and then in the other, that's a lawsuit that's been filed?
Okay, in terms of expectation, I'm not sure that I was expecting, but I'm not surprised because this is not the first time, when it comes to vetting of ministers and other public officers. Yes, it's often been the case that petitions are sent to Parliament. So I'm not surprised that it did happen. Because, naturally, nobody is perfect, but we didn't say we are this is nominating and vetting an angel. So sometimes these things may happen. But hopefully, considering the way the whole public is in love with Mr. Amidu, hopefully we pray that this petition will not stand in the way of the vetting at all.
Are you expecting it to go, partisan lines? Would we see some NDC questions being posed to him? For instance, yesterday we heard that amongst other things, Mr. Chris Akome was making reference to the fact that Mr. Martin Amidu wants to be an NPP card-bearing member, something of the sort.
Oh, naturally, yes, there will be partisan questions. Oh, it's to be expected. And that's not negative. It's part of our democratic credentials. The fact that the parliamentarians will be able to ask any questions that are allowed within the parliamentary laws. So we are talking about what is allowed in Parliament. So the chairman has the overriding discretion as to which questions to disallow. But it's good because some of those questions would seek to warn him. Already we all think he's good, but things in the nature of human beings, reminders are also good. So some of the questions will be partisan to remind him that he needs to stay neutral as much as possible. So, I mean, let those questions come. Even issues about how he exited from office, let me call it the banter with the ex-president at our meals, all those things. So people had raised issues of temperament. So, I mean, it's legitimate to raise issues of temperament because it's a public office. So you would want to know that would you easily or would you accommodate criticisms? Because Ghanaians as we are, though we are hailing him now, don't be surprised. In the next few months, you'll start seeing criticisms. And that's natural. So his temperament, questions on his temperament will be tested, will be asked, and those are legal.
Okay. All right, Mr. Martin Pebo, we'll have to leave it here, but I wonder how you'll be following through with the procedures should it finally come off at 10 a.m.
Yes, I'll be tuned in to the radio station.
Okay. All right. What is good company for you? What comes along with watching perhaps maybe the longest proceedings ever to happen?
Oh, well, actually, because it's a working day, because I have to be working, actually, there will be no company.
Okay.
So, in other words, the company will be worked. So, you work once you listen.
All right, sir. Enjoy this. We will surely have a conversation afterwards. That's a lawyer, a very prominent one, of course, Mr. Martin Amidu, joining us via Skype. And the conversation has been about the citizen vigilante who appears before the appointments committee today for his vetting. We're holding up because we're still counting down. We want to be sure if this vetting would happen or not. If anything changes, for now, we're on course. If anything changes, be sure that you hear it first here on JoyNews.